Good morning and welcome to Norcal PTAC's third session in the Women in Construction Week series. This time we're very excited to have a panel of women-owned construction firms talking. And so my name is James Forrest. I'm the program coordinator for Norcal PTAC. I'll talk a bit about us in a second. Moderator for today is Ed Duarte, Construction and Public Works Specialist, Norcal PTAC. And the real treat for you all are these three panelists we have here. Misha Humara is the CEO and president of Tricor Panels. Hi, Misha. Sharon Alberts is the president of Talus Construction Incorporated. Hi, Sharon. And we have Carrie Schmidt Pointer, the president of BC Schmidt Construction Incorporated. So they'll have a lot in common, and they'll also have a lot of things that are different for each of their businesses, and we're going to go over it in quite a bit of detail. I want to tip our hat to some of the partners we have and just to talk a bit about Norcal PTAC, who are the hosts of today's organization. We are the Northern California Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We offer one-on-one counseling, custom bid matching, and resources and trainings. So if you're a client and you're eligible for the first two of these services, in order to be a client, you have to have a business that's located in the service area you see on the map on the right. And so this is a 15-county service area in Northern California. If you have an established business that's set up, so not a pre-venture, and if possible, not a brand new startup. So if you really have your feet on the ground and you have a business that's located in one of these counties, Bay Area and then north, in the rural north up the coast, then you're welcome to apply for our services. We are a nonprofit program funded by the federal and state government, and we don't charge anything for any of our services. And we can connect you with someone in our team. Could be Ed Duarte, is one of our procurement specialists, construction specialist, and they can sit down and go over any of the processes related to selling your goods and services to the government. That's getting your certifications, marketplace research, compliance, bid proposals, you name it, we do it for our clients. We can also set you up with custom bid matching, which is pretty neat. Grabs all these opportunities and sends them to your inbox every day. And then this third thing we do for everybody. So it's not just for our clients, it's for anybody. And as you know today, all of you have joined for free, and we didn't ask about any geographic information or business status. We are just happy to have everyone here for our webinars. So if you're interested in what we offer, our website is norcalptac.org. We helped our clients win more than $500 million, $500 million in 2020 using the methods that we have indicated here. So we hope you'll take advantage. If you're not in our service area, don't stress out. There's 100 independently operated centers across the country, and you can find your local center at that second link there, aptac-us, or by just Googling your county and the word PTAC will bring it up as well. All right, so as I mentioned, I want to tip our hat to some of the partners that have helped make this possible today. First among them is Darlene Neal, who's in the audience today. Darlene Neal is the director of the Women's Business Center, the New America Women's Business Center in Oakland, and they provide training, counseling, and other support services to help women entrepreneurs start and successfully grow their business. The center is open to all. And so like us, they're also part of a network of centers that nonprofit centers that want to offer their services to you. So this is a great opportunity, work with them to work on general business assistance, whereas we focus on government contracting. WBEC, WBEC, this is the Women's Business Enterprise Council, the Pacific. They have a certification called the WeBank, that's national in there. And they are one of our partners for today's webinar. The WeBank certification, it does cost money, but it may be very useful for you. It's a pathway to new business opportunities. It gives you access to all sorts of supplier diversity, procurement executives. There's all kinds of different opportunities to pursue business with partners, members, and other certified WBEs. You get access to networking events, programs, you name it, they do it. It's pretty great. Eligibility for regional and national awards. And of course, if you get certified with them, you can also use that WBE certification logo seal. And it can also interface with the WOSB certification as well and sort of streamline that as well. So thank you to WeBank. To Alameda Contractor Technical Assistance Program, that's Ctap, not PTAC or PTAC. This is Ctap. If you're a small, diverse contractor in Alameda County, they provide technical assistance, training, and help with obtaining or increasing the bonding capacity for work on Alameda County projects. So if that is one of your targeted buyers you'd like to do business with, This is a great program administered through Meriwether and Williams Insurance Services, also free. National Association of Women in Construction, the NAWIC, the San Francisco branch. They've been around, as you can see, a long time. Chapter was started in 1959, and their goal is to develop tomorrow's leaders. So in addition to networking, they focus on education and mentorship, and they have monthly meetings, which are posted to their website. Please contact Megan O'Halloran, chapter president. You have the email here. You get these slides later today if you're curious about what they can do for you in your business. And last but not least, we have NAWBO, the National Association of Women Business Owners, the San Francisco Bay Area chapter. They are an influential organization representing and supporting the needs of more than 117,000 women business owners of the Bay Area. That is a huge number, and they're a great resource for community education, inspiration, political advocacy, partnerships, and networking for women who want to grow their business, be more successful, to empower others. So they do a lot for their members. Please look them up if you're interested in what they could do for you if you're in the Bay Area and you are part of a woman-owned business. So thanks to all of our wonderful partners for helping make today possible. And the best is yet to come. We're going to hear from our panelists in a moment, but first I'd like to introduce Ed Duarte, who is the moderator for today's discussion. Ed has years of experience in the construction field. He has also worked with the DBE program in helping certified disadvantaged small businesses, and continues to offer his expertise at Norcal PTAC, helping small and disadvantaged businesses get their foot in what's a complicated industry in the Bay Area. So we're really happy to have Ed helping out today. So Ed, I'm going to let you finish introducing yourself, and then we can move on to our panelists.
Thank you, James. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our third webinar in this series honoring Women in Construction Week. I'm pleased to be the moderator for today's panel discussion. Being one of the senior citizens in the business and having been a contractor all my life, I've seen the changes that have been necessary, but the subject matter that we're going to be talking about, and that's the issue of women in construction. They've had a lot of barriers and hurdles and obstacles put in their way by my generation, if you will, and the generation before me. So I'm pleased to be able to introduce these three women who are so successful in their businesses. We're going to discuss issues that deal with the problems faced in dealing with a male-dominated, male-oriented industry. We hear about this all the time. I just got an industry trade newsletter this morning with another article stating that the Denver International Airport construction expansion project is being audited because they failed to meet their diversity outreach goals for minority and women construction companies. Same article referred to a bunch of projects in Massachusetts that had 95% of the projects failed to meet the assigned goals that were part of the federal contract grants that funded these projects. So it's a relevant subject that I think these women can readily attest to, and I'm anxious to hear their views and perspective on this. As James said, we will have time for Q&A at the end of the program, and we urge all of you to participate as much as possible. So having said all that, I would like each of the women to give us a brief intro, some background on them, their company, maybe how they got into the business. And let's start with Sharon.
Good morning, everybody. I'm excited to see such a great panel of people joining us today, and my sisters from WCOE, Carrie and Misha. I've been in construction for 31 years in the greater Bay Area, installing site utilities all around the Bay. Wasn't really something that I set out in life to do, but I grew up in a blue collar neighborhood in San Leandro, graduated high school there, And I took the opportunity to do their ROP classes my junior and senior year. My senior year, I landed a job for an electrical contractor, which is probably the biggest blessing. It was a small contractor. They only ran about 8 people, but it was at a time when you did everything by hand still. And I was able to learn accounting skills as well as takeoff skills and preparing bids. So it was quite the learning experience. From there, I moved to the Bureau of Electricity and got a taste of what it was like to be in civil service. I learned a couple things there. I had been put in for a couple merit raises, and the third merit raise my supervisor put me in for was blocked by City Hall because she said it would upset the union people at the Bureau, and went on to tell me that I was fortunate to have the wages and benefits of the city, and I would not find something to match that outside of the city. And I turned in my 2-week notice, and my general manager was upset to lose me, but she too also gave me something that made me mad enough to do better in life. She told me that women with children usually cannot succeed in management. And so from that, I tried to take as many classes as I could along the way when I could. And I went to a larger electrical contractor in Oakland. They're not there anymore, but Schwartz and Lindheim, and learned what it was like to be in a large company and learn more about project controls and what it took to run a larger organization with bigger responsibilities with design and money and everything. So that was also a really good learning experience for me, management wise, from all places, you know, what you want to leave behind and what you want to take away that was good from those companies. So for me, I ended up marrying a vendor, a backhoe operator, and fast forward, we typically run about 25 people in the field. We started out working from home, and now we have estimating out of state, and we have an equipment and accounting office out in Lathrop, California, and I'm here in Danville because I'm closer to home and I don't like traffic very much. But typically my week starts out touching base with my team in meetings, and at the end of the week we're going over operations and project scheduling. In between, I typically go over contracts and change orders and making sure our forecast schedules are kept up.
Great, thank you, Sharon. Misha, what's your story?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. And I'm so grateful to be on this panel this morning with my WCOE sisters. And thanks, Sharon, for getting us all on board. Just to give you a little bit about background intro about myself. So I have a unique story. I actually was not involved in construction at all. My original game plan after high school was cosmetology, and I was working in the beauty industry. And I got into a really bad car accident early 2013. And my father had started this construction company just a couple of years back, and he had about 6 employees. And he said, "Hey, just how about you come and help me part-time until you decide what you want to do." And I said, "Okay, this is a great opportunity." So I started working part-time as an admin, transitioning into office management, and then somehow some shift happened where I actually ended up being here full-time and making a lot of changes. I integrated a safety program. I ended up transitioning into process management, eventually ops management, and now running the company. And something that I've really been grateful for is the ability to introduce an operating system into this family business. And some way I describe it is kind of turning this family business into a corporation. When I first started, everything was trial and error, always putting out so many fires. I felt like the meme with the dog and the fire, all around. And so I had to figure out a way, how can I continue to grow this company, but with structure? And so I ended up integrating an operating system called EOS, which entirely shifted our company. And there's, accountability, there's structure, we have a process for everything that we accomplish. So everything has a system now, and that's really allowed me to step aside and continue the growth of the business. And my father now has transitioned into more of a consultant role, and my cousin is the general manager and ops manager of our company now. So it's been a really great transition, and I've learned so much. I knew literally nothing about construction. So having to learn, how the fabricating systems work, the different kinds of, clips and extrusions that we use on panel systems, understanding how to read blueprints, the whole 9 yards. And so it's been a really fun, challenging curve. And I'm so excited to see, what the next chapter has in store.
Thank you, Michelle. Carrie.
Well, good morning and welcome to Women in Construction Week 2022. Gosh, 2022, these days. But it is such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And Sharon and Misha, the WCOE is such a fantastic organization. I'm very pleased to be a part of that. And Ed and James, thank you for your help in putting this whole thing together. My name is Carrie Schmidt. And I got married, so I'm Carrie Schmidt Pointer now. And I have been in business since 1998. When I was going to college, I was in banking. And so, of course, I was going to college for business. And so when I graduated with my business finance degree, I got married very young while I was still in college. And I used to work with my husband on weekends as doing side jobs in construction. So we would build pre-engineered metal buildings. We poured a lot of concrete. And eventually we decided that we would start our own business. And so with the business degree that I had a little bit of an understanding of business. From banking, I learned some customer service and how important it is to take good care of your customers. And then everything else I kind of learned on the fly, by reading plans, by talking to experts, trying to do the best that you possibly can while creating a good, viable organization without any money. That's always a little bit of a chore. But we were able to be successful in building the airplane hangars, pre-engineered metal buildings, concrete all over the state of California in the commercial market. But knowing that everything was cyclical in terms of the economy, I knew that things were going to take a downturn. And knowing that the federal government always has money, it would give us the ability to pay our employees, pay our bills, and take care of everybody. So that kind of prompted me to shift gears and look towards the federal market of how to do business there, what to do, how to structure it, basically trying to find out what we needed to know to be successful. And then also, where could we as such a small business trying to step into this unknown market succeed and maybe have a leg up. And so that's where I found the small business set-asides and started applying for the certifications, started taking every class I possibly could that was free, the SBA, the PTAC, all invaluable in helping to create that plan, because before you can jump into something like that, you need a plan of how you're going to do it, because once you get that opportunity, you really need to knock it out of the park to be successful, because sometimes you don't get more than one. So you have to make the most of each and every one of them. So we were very blessed with being able to be successful with that. And in 2014, I went through a difficult divorce. And since the corporation was more my baby than anything else, I became the 100% owner, and I have continued to grow our company, more than doubling its size in the federal market and arena, and branching out into other areas. I just find it very exciting. You know, we get to do some really cool stuff, go to some really fun places, and things that most people don't get a chance to do. So I would tell my employees, oh, this is better than a paid vacation. Yeah, they didn't quite believe me, but it's exciting what you can do, and some of the things that we have done. The thing to remember is that it's always a constant hustle, right? So even when you think things are going to slow down a little bit, and you might get a little bit of a rest in, maybe what's happening there is that's a retraining opportunity, and you're now focused on your estimating and your bidding, ramping that up so that continues. So that level of hustle never slows. That workflow never actually stops. You're always filling in one manner or fashion, with estimating, with on-site management, with marketing, training, all of those things. I don't have a typical day. I travel an awful lot, but no matter where I am, I always try and focus, number one, on my husband and my family. They're very important to me. I have 3 sons, 28, 24, and 16, and I have 4 grandchildren and 1 on the way. So very excited about that. But I spend about between 1 to 3 hours every day, either reading articles, reading books, listening to podcasts, taking webinars, trying to find ways to become a better leader, to be more inspirational, to know how I can help my people be the best that they can be, because we have such a fantastic team. And also to help keep that positive attitude, because, we live in a negative world, and sometimes that's a challenge, but, we control ourselves. And so I focus on those ideas for future direction there. And then I make sure that I touch base with my team every day, so I know what's happening on every job site, so I can step in at any given point in time. I take care of any issues that pop up, meetings, we look at troubleshooting, and then it allows us to make sure that if there's anything that they need assistance with, that we're on top of it. I don't like to crisis manage or operate that way. I try and be very proactive, and it just makes things go a little smoother. And then, of course, go through the emails, which, oh my goodness, the amount of spam we get nowadays. But, reviewing RFP documents, I review every single estimate that goes out of our organization. I work on all the proposals, the financials, so every aspect of that. And I think that's part of why we've been able to be successful, is that we have a great team, but we can all step in and assist each other as we go through.
Thank you. Thank you, Carrie. Let's talk about some specific issues that have each one of you has may or may not have encountered. Sharon and Misha, I would suspect that you do a lot of contracting as subcontractors and vendors. And Carrie, it sounds like you function more often as a general contractor, but Sharon, have you experienced any bias towards your firm from client owners or prime contractors from a standpoint of being a woman-owned company? Has that ever entered into any discussions?
I'd say no. We primarily work in the private sector, so it's a very people-oriented sector to be in versus public contracting. And it's competitive, but not only is it competitive, there's a lot of companies out there that have a lot of families in similar companies, and that tends to put us at a disadvantage. But I can't really say it's an issue in contract award. I think client owners tend to have a bias favoring people that they know that they've worked with before in the private market. So what we try to do the best we can is to assist in all the budgeting phases of the plans, and hopefully get invited to the table when they have the final construction set. And by that time, they're a little more familiar with our team. and that gives us a better leg up.
Misha?
Yeah, my answer is a little similar to Sharon in the aspect that as a sub, I think the most important thing is building that relationship and having that continuous ongoing partnership with the different general contractors and, showing them the kind of work that you can provide, the quality, you're meeting your deadlines, you understand all your details. So then they're willing to work with you again. And what we do is we specialize in architectural panel systems. So we do all the finishing, siding for commercial projects. And so we also get involved with the value engineering options and helping them with the design phase, showing them, how we can help them save money and, have the same vision that they're envisioning. And I think when you show them as a woman-owned business, I think the most important thing as well is ensuring that the client knows that you understand everything and you have honestly your data and your knowledge, because I think if you come into the table understanding what it is you're presenting, then it's more so, for them, they're saying, okay, yeah, she's got it. And they feel a lot more comfortable moving forward. And I'm grateful for my team because without them, I wouldn't have all those answers. So kind of piggybacking off what Carrie said is, being there to support each other, but also kind of relying on each other to, provide your total goal and outcome.
Carrie, I would hope that with so many federal clients that being that it's the law that they are supposed to be impartial, but we all know that certain people have personalities that they can't seem to get past their own judgmental ways. What have you run across in those kinds of instances?
And honestly, I think sometimes they don't even realize that they do it. But I have encountered that quite a bit throughout the years. And, I remember basically, like what Misha was saying, you need to understand what you're doing, what you're talking about, because you have to not only be able to talk the talk, but you have to be able to walk the walk, right? And I used to always say that when I would sit down with somebody, maybe somebody that didn't know me, I would spend the first half an hour talking technical, explaining to them why I know what I'm doing and why I should be in here and doing this. And then after the first half hour, they're like, oh, yeah, maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. So then they'd turn their brain on and they would actually start to listen. So then I'd have to back up and start from there again and then go through. So it was a little bit of redundancy, kind of maybe could have been more efficient. But I think once you get a lot of those folks to that point and you have to walk them through it, that they're then on your team from then, then they'll advocate for you. But you do see that an awful lot. I've been in many meetings where, I'm doing a presentation on my company and, folks in the room are asking my male employees the questions. I'm doing the presentation, they're asking them the questions. But I mean, it's all good, but it's just trying to bridge and find ways through.
Just to add,
I think.
Oh, sorry, Ed. I just wanted to add to something to Carrie's
Sure.
ending is something that our teams also really work on together is having an understanding of who's going to run the meeting and supporting each other. So for example, in those situations, if they're directing the questions to our superintendent or our ops manager, he'll direct it back to me and say, as Misha said, or, let's kind of follow back. So I think just breaking that chain and kind of being supportive of each other is how we can break through this bias.
Yeah, I think a perfect example of that. I remember reading an interview about Amy Trask, who Al Davis had installed as president of the Raiders. And she related the fact that when she went to her first team owners meeting, immediately a couple of the older gentlemen asked her if they would get them a cup of coffee. So it's out there. I'll be the first to admit it. It's out there, and but we want, we're trying to figure out how have you handled it, and every woman that owns a business is going to be facing that because the men have been pounding the nails and pouring the concrete for 100 years. So it's just something that we have to get past. How about financing? As contractors, cash is king. I mean, we can't operate without money. So in applying for bonding or financing, have you had any issues in dealing with the financial and sureties? Anybody want to take the lead on that, Sharon?
Well, I feel like this is geared more towards startups. So when we started up, we were pretty broke. We didn't have much to go on and not a lot of money in the bank. So we started out renting our equipment primarily. And then we learned about rent to own contracts, and we built up our equipment fleet that way. But most finance companies frown on self-employed people. So until you have built up more of a reputation, more documentation that you do have cash and billing cycles that are working and that kind of thing, it's pretty tough. So I hate to say it, a lot of people put equity from their homes into starting up their business. I don't think that's a great idea, but sometimes you have to do that as a new business, but just be smart about it. As to bonding, same thing. You need to have a track record. I mean, when I first needed to get a bond, I was paying the rack rate. I still didn't have a lot of assets to my name back then, but now, 30 years later, I have a very good bond rate and excellent capacity, probably so much so that it scares me. I would never want to use it all. But yeah, so, it's all, things come in time. You just have to be smart about it. And if you're dealing with associates in whatever trade association you're in, they know how to help you. So they have, like the people I buy my tractors from, they have a great relationship with Wells Fargo, and they will try to give you a rate that they know you can handle as well. Nobody wants anybody to get in over their head.
Carrie?
And Sharon said something really interesting also when she was talking about her intro that I loved. And it basically was that she was using some of the negative comments that were coming towards her when she was getting started. She used that to spur herself on. And that is kind of what I had to do in this situation. When we started out, we had no money, we had no bonding, trying to get a credit line with a bank, everywhere you go, it's no. And you have to just kind of let that be like, okay, that's fine. You're just not the right one yet. And keep learning from what they're saying and restructuring and trying it a different avenue and trying to put it together another way. But once you do get your foot in the door, listen to what they're telling you on how to structure it and what's important, because you may think what's going to be important to you is important to them, but there's totally different levels of guidelines for what they consider important.
Yeah, I think just to kind of piggyback off what Carrie was saying, it's kind of making sure you meet that right person that can help you get there, right? So our consultant told me about this book that I actually just started reading. It's not how, but who. It's who, not how. And so figuring out, who's going to be, that person that can help get your foot in the door, networking, meeting people, asking why and asking questions. I think that was the biggest thing for me. I was really young, still am, when I got into this industry. And so I didn't know, anything. So I just continuously ask questions, what do we need this for? How's it going to help us? What happens if we don't have this? Just getting those questions and networking. So I've been grateful that we work with an amazing broker who's been able to help us, get these bonds, working with, smaller banks that have helped us get lines of credits when the bigger banks, weren't able to help us in that aspect. And if anyone, needs any recommendations or help with any of that, I'm more than happy to, jump on a chat or a call and reach out to me. But it was just meeting the right people that can support you and, that are going to have your back and help you save money on those things that you can, and, help push you to get the bonds and the lines of credit for equipment and loans that you need to be able to successfully run your business.
Being that all of you are the boss, how do you deal with, or maybe you don't have the problem, do you deal with any male prejudice within your own employees and or with male contractors who are your peers?
I'll go. So our field, pretty much very, very Latin in our field. And I love my guys. I love all of them. We're a small company, so I know everybody. But I don't feel like it's as much bias or prejudice. I feel like it's culture more than anything. So I look at the field as more like military. They have a chain of command. You follow the chain of command. They interact with me in safety meetings and any other topics that are of high importance, bringing them up to date on something. I feel that they respect that. But other than that, I try to follow the chain of command and everything seems to work just fine. So I can't say that I really have an issue with any kind of prejudice in that arena. Now, I have had a very, and I say this with all my heart, a very painful experience with my peers in a board setting at one time when I was trying to elevate up to the vice president, future president level. I had two brothers on the board, both had their own companies. And one of the other people that wanted to go up as well was one of their clients. And right before the vote, I had the current vice president call me to let me know that they had been basically going to everybody on the board, telling them not to vote for me and to vote for the other person. And that was extremely painful. And I probably still do have my grudge, but he wanted to know if I wanted to pull my name out of the hat. I said, absolutely not. But if I had to look for a silver lining, I can say that that same organization has since progressed substantially when it comes to having more women on the board, more women at one time. Whereas when I was coming through the ranks, it was usually me in a sea of men. Now you see more women. So, I don't know if it's just California, but it's definitely, the field has gotten better when it comes to acceptance, in my opinion.
Carrie, you wanted to add something?
Sorry, I had to deal with that, Sharon, but it's a good thing to hear that they're progressing, and change is what we have to make, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be overnight, but I'm glad that they're taking the steps. For me, something that I will share. So for me, it was a battle of both my age and, being a woman, and also kind of taking over after my father. So it was really a hard transition of being able to gain the respect of, our superintendents, project managers, drafters, everyone kind of on the upper management team. It took a while for them to see that, I understand what I'm doing. There's a reason that I'm, incorporating these changes. And, something I've done is we transitioned into being a green company. So we were almost paperless now. And it was like a battle because they were like, why do we have to do this? It was just so hard to kind of make the changes and gain that respect. And it was hard to be taken seriously for a long time, but I just continued to do it. And I said, it's fine. It is what it is. And with time, they see it now, and now I have the respect, and, they always appreciate the things that I'm doing. So it took a while to get there. but you can do it. So you just got to keep pushing and, let those comments, as Sharon said, kind of be that fire inside you and kind of say, I can do this, because as women we can. And, it's up to us to continue to bring that in board. So another example I'll share is I want to have a 25% woman workforce in the next 5 years. And something that, I hear from some of our peers is, oh, we don't have a lot of women applicants. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not an excuse, right? So we're going to recruit solely women to have that goal be met. So it's really the changes that we want to make is we have to just do it. And it's fine if other people don't like it.
Carrie?
There have been, gosh, so many, so many. And I'm sorry to hear about some of the instances that Sharon, you had to go through, because I do know how painful that is. I've had something very, very similar to that. You have to remember that you can only control you, right? You can't control what anybody else thinks, does, how they behave. And that's okay, because you be the best you that you can possibly be every single day. And you are going to set the stage for what that success looks like. You're going to encounter people that have poor behavior, that make rude remarks. I choose to ignore them and pretend like that didn't happen. If it's something that can't be ignored, then I very nicely point out to them that that's probably inappropriate and I didn't appreciate it. And that normally nips it in the butt. It really does. And sometimes, they think of it because you're a woman and you're out in the field working with men, that sometimes they think of you as one of the guys. And so that's a kind of a whole nother thing. But, there are ways to work with it, to work through them, but it's all possible. You just be the best you can be and control how you handle the situation.
I was going to move to some items of discussion on your business actions. And I was going to bring up the point of the supply chain issues, but I don't think we need to debate that or discuss it, because every contractor out there is dealing with supply chain issues, and there's a million ways to deal with it. And there's a lot of things that we simply can't control. So I don't think that's something that we need to spend a lot of time on. But I notice I've known this about Sharon, but when I met Misha and Carrie, all three of you emphasized the importance of participating in your networks. So maybe you could talk about that, because it obviously is a big part of your business lives. Sharon?
All right, well, I've been in a number of associations over the years. My trade association, it's invaluable when it comes to labor relations and dealing with the unions. They keep us up to date on safety and legislative issues that are going to affect our particular area of work. WCOE is our sisterhood of women construction owners and executives. It is so nice to have somebody that's not in your competitive area of work to be able to pick up the phone, whatever state they might be in, and say, hey, I've got this issue going on. Have you ever had this? Or what did you do? Or do you know who can help me with this? That's just wonderful. And I'm really appreciative of that. I also belong to CFMA, which is Construction Financial Managers Association. And they're my go-to to keep me abreast of financial changes that are coming along, and also how to do my reporting to be able to satisfy those agencies. So yes, you should. And then there's also, I've belonged to associations that's strictly for networking. I know that these clients hang out with these people, so I need to get a little FaceTime, so I need to go there. So I do that from time to time too, but I might not be a full-time member of those associations.
Carrie?
Sorry, hit my unmute button there. So I also agree that associations are very important. I remember going through, must have been about 10 years of business and feeling like I'm the only woman that's in construction, actually out here running a business and working in the field and trying to do it all and raise children and everything else and the struggles that you have there. And there was nobody to talk to or to ask questions of. And so, you know, for me, WCOE is fantastic. Like Sharon was saying, you know, it's a supportive network because as an owner of a company, you have a lot of responsibilities to take care of the folks that work for you and their families. And you have to do that to the best ability that you have. And by being able to reach out to resources that are a part of WCOE, that gives you that much more. So it's really important. I also participate in SAMI, Society of American Military Engineers, and then AGC, so the Association of General Contractors, they do a lot of training and things of that nature as well. So, but for me, the big one is the WCOE, and I'm very thankful. So, great.
For me, honestly, the networks and the organizations changed my life. So for me, I, was working with my father. So not only was I dealing with him in the work aspects, I had to also remember that he's my dad. So sometimes it was really hard to figure out who to turn to for certain questions. And he was also a male. So some of the, the issues that I was dealing with and trying to figure out how to gain respect from our guys and just a lot of different aspects that I didn't know how to resolve. I ended up stumbling upon NAWIC early 2020, and it was during the pandemic. And I was like, okay, like, how can I really even network with them? And I said, you know what, I'm just going to join. And I am so thankful I did. I see some of my NAWIC sisters on the call. I've, been able to transition. For example, I think Becky's on it. She helps us with our tax strategies, CPA, as far as understanding, in construction, we have to have a certain way of doing accounting, and realizing those things by these networks. And, one of my mentors, Kara, she told me I need to go and get involved and, be on the field, get my feet out there, do walkthroughs with foremen. So just to get an understanding of how I can level myself up to be the best leader I can be, learning from the incredible women. And then I joined WCOE as well back in 2020. And it's just been incredible. I think Brenda's on the call, but she helped us with a big, lawsuit that we had with the contractor that wasn't paying us. And as a sub, it's so hard to fight for what you deserve and to be heard. So it's just been such an incredible network of people that I can reach out to, and there's no hesitation. They're always supportive. I mean, it's just like, it's incredible. If you're a woman in construction, I can't express enough to join a network. And, it's just been a blessing. And also with this operating system I incorporated, I'm also part of a female integrators group that only females that are, integrating this operating system come together. And it's just such a supportive network. And I just feel so blessed and grateful.
Well, we're running short on time. Obviously, we could stay here for 2 hours, and I know everyone could listen to the three of you relate all of your experiences and what you've done, because what you've accomplished is just great. So I'm going to ask you to do a 30-second wrap up about what advice would you give to other women business owners out there that are trying to break into this male-dominated industry, and let's keep it 30 seconds so we can take a few questions from the audience. Okay, so Misha.
For me, I think it's all about, being yourself, staying true to you, being very open to communication, using your resources, having the right people around you. And when you're building your team, making sure you have the right people in the right seats. I think that's the biggest help, making sure you can rely on the people on your team to support you and, help level your company up and, support each other. I think that's the biggest thing I can say. And just be present, go network, be around. And I think just show yourself, and eventually, you're going to shine.
Carrie?
So I believe that you don't have to be the smartest person to run a successful business. You have to be the most tenacious, willing to work and put in the effort that it's going to take. You have to surround yourself with a great team and continuously learning while you're being kind, motivating, inspiring, and a great leader. So sounds like it's just easy, right?
Great. Sharon?
One of my favorite quotes that I keep on the wall in my office is from Tom Hanks in the movie A League of Their Own. And he tells the gal, of course it's hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would do it. And that pretty much sums it up in construction. But beyond a woman in construction in general, forecast your cash flow, consider your payroll, taxes, billing, payment cycles, have credit on hand for slow payments, follow your proper lien right processes. The CEO of my trade association likes to say it only takes one bad job to close down a contractor. And that is very true. And I've seen it happen a lot of times over the years. And so have the bonding agents that are on this call today. So be smart about what jobs you go after.
Well, thank you, ladies. Your comments are absolutely spot on. James, let's go to our audience and see what questions.
Yes, we do have a couple questions. The first one I think is nice and short is, what is WCOE?
I'll take that. That's Women Construction Owners and Executives. They have been around for, I believe, over 20 years now. And I have these old black and white magazines in my office because I'm doing communications for them currently. These are the women that went to the Hill to work on getting goals and set-asides for women to have a chance to do construction in a male-dominated world. And they are still fighting the good fight. The statistics are still terrible when it comes to the number of women that own construction companies, but WCOE is still there fighting the good fight. We have women construction owners, we have attorneys, bonding agents, and they're working to help all of you women out there and your daughters, granddaughters have the same playing field that all the boys have.
Great. Philip's asking, Prop 209 prohibits contracting goals or preferences based on gender and ethnicity in California. What can owner agencies do to reach more women-owned businesses and get them to respond to contracting solicitations?
So there's a lot of, depending on the type of solicitation that it is, there's a lot of certifications that they have a database, and the database will have information on who's qualified. And so you can look in those databases and that'll give you points of contact, phone numbers, who does what. Some of the ones that are federal actually go by NAICS codes as well. And so, but that's what I would probably suggest is the databases.
Anyone else want to touch on that?
Well, for myself, I went through a very long process through BART to get the CUCP certification to be the WBE business, DBE business. That didn't gain much for me. I think I maybe got 2 jobs out of it. And, you know, it was like, I checked that box. I had the bonding, I had a good number, and it didn't do anything else for me. And then as I watched this regulation go on, they started putting tighter personal financial caps on this certification. And then it just felt like I was wearing a dog collar. So I gave it up. And I stay in the private sector and don't go into that space now.
Yeah, we have a question here from Sherry who's asking, how do you balance family life leading a business? What were your hurdles along the way and how have you dealt with them? For those of you who feel that that's relevant.
It's very relative, especially when you're in a management setting. It's very relative because I think a woman's style is so different. You're more of a listener. You know, you're getting the vibe of everybody in the room, but also at the end of the meeting, you want to go home because you want to tuck your kids in bed and read a story or whatever. And I think there was a real disconnect for me doing that back in the day, because after the meeting, the guys would want to have a beer. I didn't do that. I don't do the bar scene with my peers. But anyway, the balance part, I have been fortunate. I had on-site daycare at the public school that my kids went to, so that worked for me. But I think that's probably the biggest pain point for any tradeswomen, because the hours that jobs start and finish, as well as the commute to get to where they need to go. So if you have a good support network, great. But that's probably one of the biggest things construction needs to change, is the hours of work. If somebody wants to work a different hour, if they want to start at 8:30 and work to 5, something like that. But we're not quite there yet.
I agree with Sharon on that. You know, that was probably the toughest part of running a business, and especially a construction business, because, you know, I remember getting up earlier and earlier, you know, just so I could get so much more done before the kids got up and I got them ready for school and did all of that. You know, and you know, I think that's one of the things that we as women make it tough on ourselves, because we feel like we have to do so much more. And we actually do a lot more. But I think that as long as when you're there and you're giving your full presence to what you're focused on at that moment, you know, that is your balance. It comes, because I personally have not been able to find a, you know, 4 hours here and 2 hours there does a balance thing. It's kind of a, you know, I'm all in. When I'm doing it, I'm 100% all in. And when I'm with my kids, I'm 100% all in, and they know it, and they're proud of me and for what we've been able to achieve.
I only have fur babies, but for me, it's a little bit different as far as being able to turn it off. So for me, it's like, I always have this thing, am I doing enough? Am I, you know, how can I do more? And so I think just something that helped me was reading this book called The EOS Lifestyle, and kind of just explaining how you can, you know, do the things that you want to do and still run your business. And I think the most important thing is being able to delegate, you know, the things that you can, and learning how to let go, because I think there's so many things that we hold on to that can definitely free up our time to, you know, have more of that balance. But it's also like the struggle of, can I let this go? And just being able to say that and, you know, pass it on. I think for me, that's something that I've been struggling with and working on, you know, kind of letting go.
Great, thank you, Misha. We have a question from Diana Ramirez, who's asking, are the same women who are the majority owners also the license holders?
Yes, I'm a Class A general engineering contractor with a hazmat add-on to my license.
Yeah, I have general building, engineering, concrete, demo, modular, and I'm pending my electric.
And I'm in the process of actually getting my general B license. I just set my application and I'll be taking the test shortly.
Thanks for sharing. And we don't have much time left. We're actually 1 minute past the hour, but we got a little bit late started. So if anybody has to leave, I just dropped in the chat a link to a survey. If you would just let us know what you thought of today's panel, that would be great. But I think we'll have time for one more question. Annette DiResta wants to know if anyone can talk a little bit about bonding, and if at any point would you consider selling your business and no longer being woman-owned?
Well, yes, I would consider selling my business. Currently, I'm trying to sort out my plan for my 2 sons that are now involved in the business to someday take over. Hard to give up your company because that is a baby, but you know, I think it's time for me to enjoy grandchildren. I have 2 more coming this summer. But as far as bonding goes, one of the ladies mentioned it. Talk to your bonding companies, see what they're looking for, because if you don't ask, sometimes you don't know. Again, great resources through whatever trade associations. I think there's Meriwether and Williams is a name that I've heard in many circles for bonding. Talk to them. and ask them, how do you grow your capacity? What are you looking for? If you don't ask, you're not going to know.
All right, great. I think that's all we have time for today. Do you have any closing comments, Ed?
Well, first of all, I would certainly like to thank these three women for their comments and their participation today. Again, being an old man, retired contractor, they stated what our generation has always been trying to say, is that construction contracting is a 24/7 job. And when you're the owner, nothing is going to replace the issue of hard work. It takes hard work to build a construction company. So these three ladies definitely have that work ethic, because look what they've accomplished. I'm very heartened to see that. So my congratulations to them, my thanks to them for being here today. I think I've made two new friends with Misha and Carrie, and Sharon and I go back about 5 or 6 years. Thanks to all of our attendees that signed up, and we have webinars on bonding. So if you ever want, we've got the information. So thank you all. And James, thank you for coordinating all this. So I guess we could sign off.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, and this, just as a note to everyone who has asked so far, yes, this webinar has been recorded, and we'll have the slides as well as the YouTube of the recording will be up on our website later today. I've dropped it in the chat a number of times. I'll go ahead and do it again. But yeah, and you can also find, as Ed mentioned, you can also find the bonding webinars in there. Just you Control F and type in bonding, and you'll find one of Ed's previous webinars. But we have tons of webinars on there. Thank you so much for everyone. Thanks, Ed, for putting this all together. And of course, this is a really exciting experience for Norcal PTAC to hear about the experiences for Sharon, Misha, and Carrie. So really, really appreciate everyone joining today, and I hope to see you at our next webinar.
Thank you. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you for having us. Happy Women in Construction Week.
Happy Women in Construction Week. All right, bye, everyone.